Case interview training. It's imperative if you want to pass a case interview for a top consulting firm. And it's even more important if you're specifically interested in a specific office for a specific firm at a specific time. And here's our recommendation. You only want to go through the case interview training process once. You don't want to have to come back around watching other people win the interview and you having to do a repeat return a year, 2 years, 3 years later. So you want to make sure that your case interview training is on point the first time, not the second, not the fifth time around. Here's what we're going to walk through. I'm going to walk through a great case interview training process, some specific case interview training tips, and I'm going to talk about my personal case interview training process. If you're interested in case interview tips, tricks, and more, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We've got all of the best, most up-to-date content, and we keep putting more out, so you'll get notified right when something new comes out. First, let me just walk through my case interview training process. I was going to an interview with Bain and McKinsey. And so before my McKinsey interview, I had a friend that said, let's just actually practice a case interview. She recommended that I get a book. I read through the book, and then I showed up to the interview with her. I did the first interview on the phone from the car. I didn't write anything down, and I was absolutely miserable. She told me such at the end, that I was in fact the worst case interview that she had ever seen. And I don't doubt it now that I've been on the other side of the case interview process. I was completely unstructured. I didn't identify any of the drivers. I did no math. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Here's why. I'd read a book. Books do not give you what you need for case interview training. And she reminded me that. She said, throw the book away, burn it if you have to. But your job in the next 2 weeks between now and your interview is to talk out loud. Talk out loud. That's it. And so all of our case interview training tips are going to be how to focus you on not building knowledge, but building experience in the case training process. Good news for me is that I took her advice to heart and I spent the next 2 weeks furiously finding everybody that I could talk to, my mom, a cat, and people that were inside the industry to practice case interviews. And when I walked into my interviews, I was successful. In fact, Bain told me that I was their top recruit on the East Coast for that year. And so it can turn around if you do the case training that we recommend here today. Step one in any great case training process is to begin by listening or watching other people do videos. You don't want to read them. It doesn't make sense. So follow along and make sure that you jump onto the part of our channel where we focus just on case interview experiences. Listen to them on a podcast format, watch them on video format, but make sure that it's an audio and ideally a visual experience so you can really get a sense for how somebody walks through the process. You'll also see in that how an interviewer behaves and responds, and you'll begin to pick up on some of the clues and the cues that they'll give you inside the case interview. So watch or listen a few case interviews until you feel like you're kind of getting the hang of what should be happening inside the interview process. The second thing that you should do is tackle a few interviews on your own. We recommend usually somewhere between 5 and 10 with a live partner. This is low expectations, not a lot of feedback, just in general, to break the ice and get you started in the casing process. You don't want to case with an expert yet. You don't want to case with somebody who is inside a firm, who is your primary networking contact. You 100% will embarrass yourself. And that is exactly the point, because the people who don't do case interview training embarrass themselves in the interview that's live when their job is on the line. Your job is to embarrass yourself before the interview. That's how you do step 2 of the case interview training process. Step 3 of the case interview training process is to get together with somebody who can evaluate you. This is where you begin to move into a time where you're focused on quality. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing in your interviews. Now, you can do this with a peer, someone who's decent in case interviews, who can say, actually, what you just did there didn't make sense to me. You need to redo that. That took too long. They're able to give you the real-time feedback and often even let you redo the part of the case interview in the moment. Or you can work with an experienced coach, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next in the next step. But really, this step is all about ensuring that you have developed the ability to go through an interview, you've broken the ice, you've embarrassed yourself, and now you're really focused on doing the right things at the right times in the right duration inside the interview. If you mess up the math, you do it again. If you need to do a restructure at the beginning because yours doesn't make any sense or it was too complicated, do it again. And the better advice that you get in this step, the change in your trajectory will be monumental, right? So if you get crappy advice from somebody, you're going to think that you're doing amazing. If you get amazing advice from somebody, you're going to know that you're on the right track. This process should continue until you are successfully going through cases the first time. That's an emphasis on quality over quantity. It's really making sure that you're not making major mistakes inside the case process. And this will usually take you somewhere between 5 and 25 cases going through this process with a partner. The next step is to ensure that you have an expert or an outside review of your performance. So once you feel like you've watched other people do it, you've done it yourself and embarrassed yourself, and then you've consistently gotten good enough to put yourself to the real test, you should either hire an expert, which you could have done already, but you definitely should do at this point, or you can work with people who are internal to the firms. They've already worked there. This is when you're ready to put those people who are your networking contacts on the spot. You ask them for their help for one single case interview that's evaluative for you. They're not going to tell you whether you're going to succeed or fail at the firm, but they're going to tell you whether you're on the right track. And so having an expert review is critically important. The final step is to identify your weakest areas and to drill down on those. And you can start that earlier in the process, but definitely after you've met with an expert and before your interview, it's an amazing time to focus on shoring up areas of weakness. If your weakness is structure, we've got incredible structure drills on our website. Practice with them, use them, go through them, and get yourself to a place where in 2 minutes, structure is just flying off your fingertips. If math is your weakness, we have a mental math course. We have case math, chart math. We have all kinds of different applied math scenarios that you can practice with. So use both our free and our paid drills to do that. And if you have absolutely no idea how to do any of this at all, at the very end of the process, you have 2 great choices. Number 1, you can start reading books. You can find the things that you've figured out were your challenge along the way and find solutions that will work for those. Or what we would recommend is that you can join our Black Belt program. Black Belt is a course that will walk through with you the exact functionality of the issues from the job search all the way to the case interview. We'll go through 8 one-on-one sessions with you to make sure that you are getting that expert feedback that you absolutely need to succeed. And you can get it earlier on in the process. And you also have access to every one of our digital materials. So you'll have the ability to use those digital materials as you're practicing for the case interview. And that will be homework that will be interjected, and that will also be toward the end of your process. So you'll be able to use it from beginning to end of the process. If you've got questions about Black Belt or questions about case interview training in general, reach out to us. We have a great website, managementconsulted.com. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm an ex-Bain consultant. You can reach out to me directly or any one of our staff members, and you can find us on social as well as by email, team@managementconsulted.com. Thanks so much for listening.